It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Nitin Gokhale. He is the founder and director of Dynamic Crane Engineers. He is an electronics engineer from Pune University. Having more than 20 years of experience in the industry, he has worked as an R&D engineer in the embedded electronic controller, heavy cranes, and material handling industry. Worked with major brands like Liebherr, Demar, and Manito, Box, etc. He started his own company in the year 2000 to provide quality service to the crane industry. Today, Nitin will discuss balancing cost and performance goals, best practices for evaluating equipment rental and procurement.
So the topic what I have chosen to speak about is the desired performance and cost goal, while evaluating a machine. So what I suggest, what I feel in this is, first we have to define what our performance goal is. Suppose if someone wants to buy a aerial platform or a scissor lift or a boom lift, what it is end goal is in mind. So the goals can be different for end users and different for a rental company like us, because we cater to a wider spectrum of applications. So if we consider, suppose if we see that an end user is planning to buy a machine, my first suggestion would be he should evaluate whether he really wants to own a machine. Okay, because that depends on the frequency of use. Suppose in a year of 365 days, he plans to use the machine for, let us say, 200 days, then it makes all the, worthwhile to invest in the machine. And even after that, he has to see a lot of different points whether deciding on a machine. First thing, obviously, the area of working, in what kind of area the machine is going to work. What is the ground situation over there? If the ground is really a greenfield project, then he needs to buy a rough terrain machine. If it is a finished product, then he needs to buy a machine which has a solid tires or non-marking tires, and whether the diesel fumes are allowed in the plant or not. And then he has to see what area he has to cover while working with the aerial platform. Suppose his factory or his designed use of application is requiring to move the machine in for a large piece of area, like maybe a refinery plant. So then he might need a rough terrain or even a truck mount machine which needs to be moved very frequently one place to other. If he's working in a confined space, might be an electric boom lift or electric scissor lift will do the work. So this area of application and area of movement are two most important, areas which one need to consider. Without that, buying a machine would be a bad idea. And what is the most preferred or normally used working height? Suppose most of the jobs are getting done by a 60 feet working machine and only few of them are requiring an 80 feet machine. Then I think it would make a prudent decision of investing in a 60 feet machine and renting a machine whenever you need a 80 feet. Okay, because there's a lot of price difference between 80 and a 60 feet machine. So if most of your jobs are getting done by a smaller machine, don't invest in a bigger machine because that will eat up on your, what you call the interest cost or finally the bottom line of your company. And then what is the type of access you need, whether you can really go below the area where you need to work at height, then a scissor lift might do the job. If you want to reach up and above the machines, maybe then an articulated boom might be necessary. Or if you want a longer outreach, then a straight boom would be, more better machine for your applications. So just because, people say that, no, we want articulated machine, don't go in for articulated machine because that has its own inherent problems, as compared to a telescoping machine. So if you are an end user and want to buy a access platform, if at all you need it really, then you should really analyze all the requirements and then make a decision. And most important part of that is, do you really have a technical skill set for operating the machine? Or even operating is, let us say operating is quite easy because the machines are really easy to operate. But do you really have the skill set of maintaining the machine? Because owning a machine and maintaining are two totally different things. So do you really have the skill set, or is there a manufacturer who is going to support you for the maintenance? Only then you can decide to, really invest in a machine. Or maybe in case, you need a very special machine which is really not available in the market, which rarely happens nowadays because the rental industry in the country is, full of all kinds of machines, what you can think of. But there are certain machines like, let us say, spider booms or, specially made booms, that you might need, only then you should go in for, buying a machine, if at all you need to buy a machine. And for a rental company, the scenario totally changes. Rental company, it decides, what decides is what kind of clientele do you plan to serve, what kind of area do you plan to serve. If you're working only for manufacturing industries, then maybe 16 or 18 meter booms are good enough, because most of the factories, the paint shops, the automotive factories in Pune, Chennai, and all these areas, 80 feet, that is 24 meters, is more than enough. But if you want to work for steel plants, or let us say cement plants, then you really need a long reach machines like, 180 feet and all the truck mounts with big booms and all, they are required. And then second part for a rental company is to think of is how much geographical area you really want to cover. Right now, it is very difficult for one company to, have a base in one area of the country and serve the other end of the country, which we have faced difficulties a few years back. So if you decide to be a state-specific, what you call rental company, you should decide what geography area and where you have to have your workshop, because then normally nowadays the rental are going to become smaller and smaller tenure. Like people want the machine for just one day for that matter. So are you placed well enough to serve your client? Because that client will give you better profit margins than the long-term rentals. So geographical area is one. And what technical strengths do your team has now? Suppose if you are right now operating one brand of machine and suddenly you decide that, okay, the other brand is good. So do you have that core competency to maintain the machines for that matter? Because like Soma rightly said, there are a lot of safety features which are almost same on all the other things. But yes, there are certain different kind of sensors which are used by different companies. And slowly to become, the manufacturing companies tend to have their proprietary sensors and all these things just to maintain their, after sales service market. So does your team have enough capability to understand what kind of sensors are used? Like I'm an electronic engineer, I know all these sensors very well. These sensors are not very easy to procure. So a dependency on, all import parts is one major criteria of deciding the machines. Okay. And then how long you plan to use the machine in a fleet? Well, unlike some other machines like cranes and, other machines, the crane's life is, I think more than twice that of an aerial platform, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Because the crane is not used as frequently as a man lift is used. Crane normally lifts a piece at a place. I'm talking about heavy cranes, like let us say 100 and 200 ton cranes. A crane lifts a piece and, stands there for many hours and then does the other lift. But aerial platform is worked very strong, very highly worked machine, And then the machine being delicate as compared to the solid machine like cranes, the active life of aerial platform is bound to be less than that of crane. So the rental industry has to accept the fact that, aerial platforms cannot go, let us say, beyond 15 years for that matter. And right now, as it is, all the clients in the country are wanting machines, which are not very old for obvious reasons, because it is difficult to maintain the older machines because the technology changes so fast. Like a machine which was 5 years before JLG was used to be a manufacturer, now it is totally different. Because technology changes, the battery changes, the electronic changes. So it's difficult to sustain and support the older machines. So the rental company needs to decide beforehand, and then most important part is whether to buy a used machine or a brand new machine for that matter. I would certainly like to buy all the brand new machines, but the economics don't work out that way. So rental industry is mostly dependent on used machines. In that case, also you have to decide what kind of brand you are working with, what kind of brand you are comfortable with, what kind of brands you are already familiar and you have a lot of machines so that, you can use the interchange the spare parts here and there. So these all the parameters are required to be evaluated for deciding what kind of machines to buy and for how long to keep it, either be it a rental company or be it a end user who wants to buy the machine. Now, the next point, what I want to discuss is the best practices for keeping the machine and procuring the machine. First thing is know the life of the equipment. If you are buying a used machine, know very well from where the machine is coming, who was the earlier user of the machine, and do they have enough maintenance history maintained for that machine. That machine might come to be little bit costlier. but then you exactly know what kind of spare parts that company has used. There are a lot of international traders, who supply good machines, but there are a lot of traders who do a quick trade here and there, and you normally tend to get stuck up with a piece of scrap. Then because you have taken the load on your head, then you somehow try to do some jugaad and maintain, which I am strictly against. So it is better to buy a machine from a known source. A known multinational source would be obviously a better choice. Then you should know your limitations also. If your team is not well versed with electronics, then you should have some person on your team who will understand that. Okay. Then obviously know your finances, what finances, you can really cough up, whether your finances are allowing to buy a brand new machine or it's allowing to you end up only a used machine. That you have to take care of that. Do you have enough spare parts, or do you have enough bandwidth to keep the spare parts for that? Because every manufacturer, be it a All-Out or a GD or a JLG, in the manual, they do give, list of recommended spare parts. So it is always good to have, enough spare parts in the stock so that you can finally give a better service to your clients, who is really dependent on your machine as far as this project is considered, right? And then even with you, if you are able to maintain proper records of the service and maintain what you have carried out, what spare part you have changed, when you have changed it, when the engine was overhauled, if all these parts are duly maintained in good records, it is good chance that you will get a better price for the machine when you try to resell it. Eventually, every machine you will have to resell one day or the other or scrap it. So normally rental companies tend to resell the machine when they still have enough life left on it. So it is always better to, very good practice to keep a maintained record. There are a lot of, software systems available or ERP systems available which help you do that. Or maybe you can have a simple, a pen and paper, the age-old pen and paper system where every mechanic of yours, goes to the site, does the maintenance and keeps a track of what he has done on the machine. And one last point, what I would like to mention here is a continuous training of your team. Because you like it or not, this technology is going to change at the breakneck speed. So every machine is going to be highly more technical. So, we rental companies or users should have to be after the manufacturers of, for giving them training on the part of service, not only operations. Because operations is like IPAF and a lot of agencies give training of basic operations. Understanding maintenance, you need in-depth training. And that normally every manufacturer is, very keen on, imparting the training. Only what you should do is invest in a good team and invest in their training also. So once you have enough trained manpower, you can really, sit tight on your office chair and, think that your cash registers keeps on ringing. So these are the best practices for a rental thing, First thing is keep enough spare parts, enough records for maintenance and, service what you do, and invest in manpower and invest in their training also. Only hiring a mechanic is not sufficient or an engineer is not sufficient. You have to see that, he is trained to use that piece of equipment. And once, suppose you add on to your machines, then obviously some different skill set might be needed. So be on the edge of your seat that, as well as you add the machine, you should have someone who understands the machine in details. Okay, because a lot of safety features, what SOMA has told, is that involves a lot of sensors. And if sensors malfunction, all these safety features go for a toss. Then you feel that, it is safe, but when eventually something happens, the safety feature doesn't work because the operator doesn't understand. Okay, so this is, my few bits about how to, follow the practices for effective rentals and preparing the machine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nitin, for your detailed analysis on balancing cost and performance goals, best practices for evaluating equipment rental and procurement. Thank you, Soma, for sharing your views on safety features and industry compliance while operating at height. P2P purchase is available on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also download our app from the Google Play or the App Store. We also request that viewers to stay tuned for future interactions. With that, today's interaction has now concluded. Thank you and goodbye.